All right, let's do this. It's the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is episode 33, season 2. If you haven't joined us before, we're a sports betting podcast where we talk not only sports betting, obviously, we talk about sports topics. You're going to find us, if you've listened to us the past few weeks, and in the next few weeks, we're going to focus on NFL action, since that is the king of sports betting. But we'll touch upon some other sports stories before we get into the details of Week 18 of the NFL this week. We'll also recap some of the findings, some interesting things that occurred in Week 17, and go through some of the weekend scenarios for each team and playoff hopes, and try to figure this all out. And that's what you got with this podcast. Thanks for everybody for joining week over week. We try to drop 2 a week. We're going to try to put one out for Thursday, focus on props, and also give some insight on the NCAA football championship between the Washington Huskies and the Michigan Wolverines, which will take place January 8th, Monday, as well. So, which is a big matchup from the gambling side of things. But for those who follow us on Twitter, and for those who don't, please do so, or X, whatever you want to call it, at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Overrated Experience, all of which are linked in the episode details from your podcast provider. And got a shout out to everybody. Happy New Year's. Happy 2024. Hope you have some betting resolutions. Trying to think about what mine are. I gotta believe 2024 has to be the year of patience, bankroll management, education on deeper meaning of gambling, and throwing out, not just random picks and taking action, but actually sitting down and looking at bet value, charting your picks, being smart, and not, honestly, a big one is drinking and betting. When you start having a few pops and you start feeling good, suddenly you feel like you want more action. So watch out for that. It's a big mistake we all make, but especially during Super Bowl time. So be very, very careful. All right. So I'm going to talk about what happened in Week 17 of the NFL and some of the stories there. Let's look at it before we get into Week 18. And we'll touch upon, like I said, a few non-NFL stories. So Week 17, if you watch the Saturday night game, Cowboys-Lions, one of the most controversial plays that you've seen all year long, maybe in the last few seasons. And that was late fourth quarter. Detroit marches down the field. Few seconds on the clock, 20 plus seconds on the clock. They actually get into the end zone, score a touchdown, and then Danny Boy Campbell puts up the 2 fingers. Not the middle finger that he got later from the result of the play he called, but 2 fingers to go for 2. They're going for the win. The Lions don't play this tie bullshit. They're going for it. And they said, they pre-planned this. If we have an opportunity to win the game, we are going for it. So the Lions line up. Jared Goff takes the snap, drops back, looks, throws in the end zone, throws to offensive lineman number 68. Was it Skipper? I can't remember. Whatever. 68. That's the important part, the number. Touchdown, celebration, Lions win 21-20. But hold on. And you've probably seen this already. I'm probably telling you something you already know. The referees throwing a flag. They're conferencing. They come together and say that, hold on. 68 caught the ball? No, he didn't report as eligible. 70 reported as eligible. So all hell breaks loose. Dan Campbell's on the field. He's talking to the referee. He's pointing like what's going on here? Like this, I don't see where the problem is. Referee stick to their story. Touchdown is waved off. Ball is moved back. Illegal touching. And the Lions still go for 2. Micah Parsons offside. Ball brought into the 3 or 4 yard line. They go for 2 again. And the throw is up short. Lions lose. 2019. For you spread bettors out there, you covered. For you Lion money line folks, I think you got a argument here. You can be completely blanked. When I say blank, you got fucked. You got fucked over. I was one of those. I took the spread and the money line, 2 separate bets, so kind of washed out in the end for me, but that should have been a profit on that money line. So Lions lose. I can't believe it. I'm sitting here watching on my phone. It just... You know what? And it dawned on me the reality of sport, just before we get into the fallout of this play. And the role of replay. It's... No matter what sport right now, I think now we are used to the dramatic event happening, the goal, the touchdown, the big run, whatever it may be. And then you're looking around, is there a flag? Is there an offside somewhere? Is there something that's going to bring that goal back or that play back? And it's become the natural part of our watching sports. Like when I watch a soccer game now and there's a goal scored, I can't feel comfortable until, they start play up again. Excuse me. There's always an offside check. There's always a foul check in soccer. The NFL, you don't know if it's a catch. You don't know if he crossed the plane. You don't know if the ball was turned over. You don't know if a knee hit the ground. It's amazing that our way of viewing sports has changed so much that the play itself can no longer be the final result. It's going to be based on a replay before you can full on buy into the result of that game or that play. And that I just dawned on me how sports has changed. I don't know if it's for the good, it's for the bad. There's been many times it's helped me, and many times it hasn't. But I can tell you, sports has changed big time. And I'm curious if you guys think it's helped or hurt, because maybe it's more accurate or less accurate, but the spontaneity of that basket or that run or that goal or that turnover is kind of gone, right? Because you're not fully sold 100% that interception you just saw and was called an interception on the field was actually an interception upon further review. So this one stood, right? This play stood. All hell's breaking loose and Twitter explodes. You get replays, you get people commenting on Twitter that how could Skipper go over to number 68, Skipper, offensive lineman, head over to referee and not report, right? And then you start, in the next coming hours, you get replay after replay of the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff sending 68 to go talk to the referee, make sure he's eligible. Because, they've practiced this play probably 100 times, that this is part of it. It doesn't work unless we line up correctly, but most importantly, you report eligible. So the footage shows him going up, pointing to himself. And the Lions got 2 other linemen up there because they're trying to confuse the Cowboys on what offensive lineman may be eligible. But you see the replay even further, the referee's kind of half-assed paying attention. So I guess number 70, offensive lineman, had already previously in the game reported eligible. So the assumption was number 70 was eligible. And that's who was announced. But 68 was the guy the play was centered around. So a lot to break down there. And then Dan Campbell, probably very smartly, was visibly upset, angry as he should be. Talked about, he talked to everybody basically in detail of what was going to happen from step. And I didn't know if he was referencing the players in the field, but he was referencing, the communication with the officials, that if we get in this situation, this is what's going to happen. So there should have been no surprise. This wasn't out of the blue. And if you watched and you listened to Dean Blandino cover it with, I'm dropping his name, Dan Patrick on a show today, he talks about the referees. The referee crew splits up and they meet with the coaches and they talk about these specific things, these gadget plays. So there's no surprise that when the team pulls it off, that they're all on the same page, that there's, it's coming. So the impression was that, without not being in the room, was that they had to talk about this play. And yes, the Lions trying to confuse and kind of put shade on what the Cowboys seen or who was reporting eligible probably confused the situation to the referee. But the referee made the error of assuming that he had the right player reporting eligible in a big play, a 2-point conversion that would have won or lost the game for the Lions. And honestly, he fucked up. And I do agree with some of the comments that are being made, is that the league seems like it's putting it on the Lions as if they were the culprit here. They were accountable for this. Where were they accountable for this? So this is the part where the NFL really fucked up. And this has huge ramifications, because if Detroit wins this game, they're still, in the running to win that number 1 seed. Right? Now the 49ers have wrapped it up now, but they were in the running. This has also now put the Cowboys in a position to win and win the division. So it has, and it will have huge ramifications on, the Lions could have had 1, 2, the seeds in the NFC, and based on an error, it's now in question. So we'll see how this burns the NFL, or maybe it's insignificant. But if the Lions don't make a run, it's not going to be insignificant. And people are going to look back at this as a turning point on how the structure of the playoffs was set up. It's a big mistake. But one of the biggest plays in the NFL this year, reporting who's eligible. Didn't think that would come back to haunt a team. Anyhow, as we move on, Eagles choked against the Cardinals. They're free-falling. Like, holy shit, they're free-falling. The Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl runner-ups last year, a pass interference away from possibly winning the Super Bowl, have free-falled. Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Eagles, is like public enemy number 1. Like, things are falling apart in Philadelphia. Now, the Cowboys have leverage to win that division now. Cowboys win, they win the division. Probably secure the number 2 seed in the NFC. Huge turnaround. So the Eagles, free falling. I think they're going to pick it up, though. They got the Giants this weekend. I think they'll handle the Giants. I'll get to the Cowboys in a bit, man. I don't think it's a home run. I don't care if they're playing the Commanders or not, but they're on the road. I don't trust them. And I got to believe the Eagles are going to turn this around. They got too much talent. The thought of A.J. Brown is apparently a disruption in the locker room. Is that fact or fiction? What the story is there? I don't understand why, your best receiver has to, not play ball if that's what's happening. Devontae, Smith is injured. He was on a walking boot, but maybe he's ready to go. But that's a big, big hit if he can't go. So big things going on in Philadelphia, and it's not good. But I believe they're going to turn it around and make a run to the playoffs. Dalvin Cook, he was the big Jets pickup. Aaron Rodgers joined, and the Jets started building a Super Bowl contender. Dalvin Cook, big impact of the Vikings over 5-6 years, comes to the New York Jets and becomes an insignificant member of that offense. And then I hear he gets released today, or they had a mutual understanding that maybe we should part ways, give Dalvin Cook the opportunity to join a playoff contender. And I'm thinking to myself, the team he's coming from the Jets. And they've completely, I'm going to be swearing a lot here because it's true, they've completely fucked their offense in many, many ways. And when I look at all the quarterbacks, situations, the Minnesotas, the Clevelands, Cincinnati's, some have worked out way better than others. However, like Joe Flacco, like that's a phenomenal story. The Jets didn't even call Joe Flacco back, to say, hey, we need you. Aaron's down. We need some depth here. I believe Dalvin Cook has value and probably maybe huge value in a playoff run. And I think, knowing the Jets' offense, he was most likely misused, just like every other member of that offense was, by that idiot Hackett. Okay? So that, to me, is a big story that I don't think is showing. I think it's a footnote right now when you read the papers, if you read the papers anymore. But Dalvin Cook might be a player here. And if you're Houston, you get the playoffs, throw that depth there, might help you. But I'm thinking more of like a Kansas City, kind of guy to come into that lineup, maybe spark it like that with offense with Pacheco. I think that might be a great. You know what? And he becomes that dangerous starter of the backfield again. Dalvin Cook is going to make an impact before the season's out. Mark my words. The Bears secure the number 1 pick based on the absolute turd of the Carolina Panthers that secured the last overall seed but sold their soul, meaning the number 1 pick, to the Chicago Bears to pick up Bryce Young, who I still think will be a good quarterback. Now, what the scary thing is, if you're the Chicago Bears, the pressure must be mounting, must be weighing on the shoulders of that organization, because they got to make the call. Do I extend Justin Fields, who's heading into his 5th year option, or do I decline his 4th year, 5th year, whatever it is? Or do I dump him to take my shot at the number 1 pick and draft a quarterback in Caleb Williamson? He's going to be the guy. You going to do it? That's where you got balls. What would and this is what you should think to yourself. What would the Jets... No, don't think that at all. What would the 49ers do? What would the 49ers do? If we're going to agree at a 30... the teams in the NFL, that the 49ers are right now that model franchise of success and or tough decision making. What would the 49ers do in this scenario if they had a quarterback like Lynch and Shanahan had a quarterback like Justin Fields and Caleb Williamson was sitting there, potentially generational quarterback? What decision would they make? I got to believe that they would make the decision to draft Caleb Williamson, not be fooled about some of the little highlights you're seeing in the last few weeks where, yes, Justin Fields has progressed. Yes, he could be an impactful quarterback in the NFL. But he's not. He's proven he's not your generational quarterback that you will leave to somebody else if you do not select Caleb Williamson on draft night. You don't put the blinders on. Justin Fields, yes, he'll look good playing for the Atlanta Falcons because it's an upgrade. He may look good for the Patriots because it's an upgrade. Man, he would look great maybe with the Steelers. That would be a great fit for him. But when you're at that number 1 position and you have the opportunity to draft a generational quarterback, I think you the only upside is to take that chance on the quarterback in the draft. The downside is you have another Patrick Mahomes type quarterback with another organization, and you'll never work in this town again. And when I say town, the NFL again, if you made that piss poor decision. So watch out. Don't make that mistake. Chicago Bears. Now, before we get to Week 18, the final week of the regular season, a couple stories that stood out to me in the world of sports. And it's putting the Irish accent on because Conor McGregor, UFC, former two-weight champion, back. After how long back? June 29th, Conor McGregor takes on Michael Chandler at 185. Now that will be a hype fight. We have 6 months to wait before Conor McGregor gets off the juice, because you know he's on the juice. Oh man, he is on the juice. And I think the UFC just announced, and I don't have the details in front of me, they got rid of WADA for testing. I've brought in another organization, but I think Connor needs a good 6 months to get all that juice out that he's had. I don't know if it's age where he's grown, but obviously he's put on some pounds, some muscle for some movie roles. I don't think it's all gym and pasta. So watch out. Conor McGregor's back. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but you know it's going to be a million pay-per-view buys. No problem. MLB. I think it's a bigger story than it shows, but Chris Sale, pitcher, Boston Red Sox, was one of the phenoms before injuries became a problem when he was with the White Sox and early years with the Red Sox. Traded today to the Atlanta Braves. He's in the final 2 years of his contract. Now the Red Sox pick up, I think, all but $10 million of this year's contract. So basically the Braves have him this year for $10 million. And for a guy that potentially has upside like Chris Sale, $10 million is a bargain in 2023 for a starting pitcher. And they have the option for $20 million in 2025. So the Cards are definitely in favor of Alex Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves to take a chance, and they can make the decision to keep him around for that extra year. Smart move. Now we move on to Week 18. Man, this whole season flew by fast. Too fast. What am I going to talk about when football's over? We're going to be talking golf, tennis, and basketball and hockey, but it's just not the NFL, is it? No, it's not. But I'm going to run through quite a few picks here. And mostly, I got really 2 over-unders, but the rest are takes, some by feeling, some by statistics, some by deep research from hours and days. We're going to start off on Saturday. 2 matchups, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3.5-point favorites, heading into Baltimore. And obviously, if you've been following, the Baltimore Ravens have already wrapped up the division. I mean, the number 1 seed in the NFL. So it's no surprise that they're not going to start Lamar Jackson. So that's not really a shocker there, and that's what puts them into, and probably a lot of other players. I don't know exactly who yet, but they're not going to. I doubt they'll start Odell. I can't see them starting some of their top receivers, but we'll see how that goes. But for Pittsburgh, 3.5-point favorites. I am still iffy on this and this team. I know they knocked off the Bengals, smacked them around a couple weeks back, walk into Seattle, get a huge win. Mason Rudolph. You're going to lead the Steelers slate tonight? Like, what is going on there? He's looking like... Guys, he was the 3rd option in Pittsburgh. 3rd option. They had to go to him. I don't know where this surge from Mason Rudolph is coming. He's played well. But I still think something to do with this matchup. Baltimore has depth. John Harbaugh is a great coach. The organization is a model organization. And with what the lineup they're going to put in with, Hundley in a quarterback, I still think they'll make this game close and make the Steelers sweat. And if you give me a line of 3.5, I'm going to take Baltimore in this one. I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm going to think Baltimore is going to give them a hard time. And I think Mason Rudolph is going to get his red nose punched in. I think it's going to end. The Steelers, the entire season, have not strung together 3 straight games of consistency, of successful football. They are the equivalent of the best of times and the worst of times. They have looked absolutely horrible. I think about 2 of the teams that they're chasing in front of them. They lost to the Colts not too long ago, and they looked horrible. They lost to the Houston Texans earlier in the year, and they looked horrible. I know Mason Rudolph was not there, but don't fool you. The Steelers may squeak by in this game, But give me a field goal. Give me a field goal and I'll take the Ravens. And that's what I'm going to do. The other Saturday game is a big one. And I think this matchup, at least the Houston Texans, will be more of a show in the next 2 to 3 years due to C.J. Stroud. And they come into this game. Oh, by the way, sorry, take a step back. So Pittsburgh is in, but they need a win, Buffalo loss, or a Pittsburgh win and a Jacksonville loss, or a Pittsburgh win and a Houston and Indy tie, or Pittsburgh tie, Jacksonville loss, plus Houston Indy doesn't end up in a tie, or Jacksonville loss plus Denver win plus Houston Indy doesn't end in a tie. That's a lot to grasp and take in, and I'm never going to remember that. So my really thought on Pittsburgh is got to win. Buffalo or Jacksonville have to lose. And that may happen. Like, that's a real possibility. So it's a must-win for Pittsburgh, but they're going to sweat it. All right, Houston. 1.5-point underdogs to the Indianapolis Colts. So they win, they're in. Okay? So Houston wins, they're in. And they both have a couple scenarios if they tie, etc. But really, they win. Okay? So that's what they need. But Houston can clinch the AFC South with the Houston win. Sorry, Houston can clinch with a win and a Jacksonville loss. And also, the Colts can also do the same thing with the Jacksonville loss. This is a huge game with a lot of ramifications to it. So it could be a playoff berth plus a division title. So a lot going on here. What do I see in this matchup? What do I see? What stands out to me? We've traveled a long way. I think the Colts have had a better season with Anthony Richardson getting hurt, kind of scraping together, with Gardner Minshew, a solid season. But they've been a model of inconsistency as well. Minshew's been the best at times, worst at times in some ways as well. Now I'm looking at the Houston side. I see C.J. Stroud, star in the making quarterback. I see weapons on the defensive side. You have a coach in DeMeco Ryan, who's an outstanding coach, by the way. This guy is a guy you want to build a program for lengthy success. And he's, CJ is going to take care of things on the offensive side of the ball with the weapons he has and the arm he has. And DeMeco is going to take care of, taking care of the defensive side of the ball. Third best rushing defense in the NFL. And the bread and butter for the Colts is that rushing, right? Taylor rushing 20 attempts last week over the Raiders. I'm going to bank on the better team. I'm going to bank on the better stars. And those stars come from Houston. So I'll take the plus 1.5, and I'll take the Texans to make the playoffs, potentially win the division. And this is the beginning of their ascending into the NFL for the Houston Texans. So we move on to Sunday. And we got a mismatch up here. I know Tampa looked horrible against the New Orleans Saints. Really, really choked. Really put themselves in a bad position or an unnecessary position coming into this week, heading into Carolina. But the good thing is the Carolina Panthers are absolutely gutter trash. They're terrible. They're a dumpster fire. I think they're a dumpster fire. Put the fire out and then set it back on fire. Like, that's how bad this team is. They're so bad that their owner, Temper, is throwing drinks and being fined $300,000. Have you seen that clip of him throwing a drink on a fan in Jacksonville? How do you believe that organization is being run? He's got a direct line down to the sidelines. It's got to be. But for Tampa, all they got to do is win. So Tampa clinches the NFC South Division title with a win or a tie and a New Orleans loss. They clinch a playoff berth with a tie and Seattle lost. Okay, we're going to forget about that. They need to win. So basically, secure a playoff berth with the hopes of winning, obviously, the division. They need to win. So the question is, can they cover 5.5? And the answer is yes, because Carolina's absolute garbage. I know they're a little better at home, but they're not going to show up. Okay? And I think Tampa should win this easy. They need to lean on the Carolina Panthers, force Bryce Young to third and longs, and they should take care of this pretty easy. So my notes on here, Carolina sucks. Quote, unquote. That's all you got to say. Carolina sucks. Every other matchup, I got a note here. Some smart, witty stuff. But Carolina sucks. There you go. That's why they won't cover the 5.5. Now, two teams, I don't need to look at the playoff scenarios. The New York Jets head in New England. And over the years, New England's owned the Jets, the Brady years and beyond. But what stands out to me, and I just can't let it go. I can't let it go. I'm sorry, guys. Again, it's called the overrated experience because I love the over. And when I see an over under a 30.5, what do you think I'm taking? I don't give a shit if they've outlawed a forward pass in this game. I'm taking over 30.5. I can't say no to that. And you're damn right I'm going to tease that, so I get that at 24.5. It's too low. 30.5. Last Billy Zapp, he's going to throw 2 touchdowns and throw 3 interceptions. They got to walk into points some way, somehow. I'll probably get killed for that, but I don't care. I know I'm going to get burned somehow, but 30.5, that's my kryptonite, guys. Sorry. Jacksonville, Tennessee. Here's an interesting line which I don't understand. All right. Jacksonville, yes, came off a big win against Carolina, but everybody beats Carolina, right? So Jacksonville are 5.5-point favorites on the road in Tennessee. And this is with Trevor Lawrence questionable. Most likely to play, but questionable. And even when he's been playing, he hasn't been lights out, reaching his potential. So the Jaguars win the AFC South. If they win, clinches a playoff spot, again with a couple tie scenarios, but also if they lose and Pittsburgh loss, Denver loss, or a tie, the Houston Indy doesn't end in a tie. Let's just say Jacksonville needs to win. And if they lose, Pittsburgh, there's a myriad of situations where they can still qualify. But let's just say they have to win. They're going to Tennessee, and Tennessee may not have Will Levis. I doubt they will. Ryan Tannehill will be in the game. Tannehill's not going to lead you anywhere. He's not the future, obviously. That's why they gravitate to Will Levis very fast in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel is he's a good coach. He's done a lot with what he has. And he's not going to let Jacksonville walk in and easily come out with a division title under his watch. You have Derrick Henry, who may be playing his last game with the Titans. You don't tell me he's not going to have a huge game. What has Jacksonville done to prove on the road that you would trust them at 5.5? They haven't done much for me. So I'm going to put my money on Tennessee to cover. Okay? Tennessee to cover. And then here's a matchup that stands out to me. The Dallas Cowboys. I don't give a fuck. They're frauds. I will throw out fucking frauds. They're frauds. Okay? The Dallas Cowboys are frauds. But they have a new light. You know what? People are going to have a short memory that they should have lost this game against Detroit. They should be coming off a loss against Miami, a loss against Buffalo, and a loss against Detroit. Simple as that. That's what should be happening here. And they're not. They're playing for a division title because the Eagles have handed it to them. Washington, absolute train wreck. This organization is going to be flipped on its head. Jacoby Brissett was supposed to play last game against the 49ers. He had an injury, so Sam Howell had to come back in. I don't see him as the future. Obviously, with the Commanders, I know Austin from Ajax is, backing his boy Sam Howell, but I think that ship has sailed. Oh, by the way, shout out to Austin from Ajax because he shout out for the Lions upset. I'm gonna give him a asterisk check mark and not an X on this because he was right and they got hosed. So he made a good call there, and he also made a great call on the Steelers knocking off the the Seahawks. So his skill set, Austin Ajax he's the upset king. We could probably find a better name for him. Maybe the Pepto-Bismol guy, because he finds the upsets the stomachs. You know what I mean? So that sucked. That was terrible. Don't maybe should edit that out. That was horrible. But anyway, we'll find an upset kind of name to give to him, because that is definitely his skill set, and that goes beyond that too. He goes beyond football. He does a lot of that in baseball. So we'll talk more to him about things like that. But you give me the Cowboys, a divisional matchup on the road, and you give me they have to win by 14 or more points. I don't think so. Win or lose, I'm going to take my chances on the Commanders looking at this as their Super Bowl. Ron Rivera knowing he's coaching his last game with the Commanders. Sam Howell knowing his last impression is going to be whatever happens in this game. All eyes are going to be on the Commanders because the Cowboys are playing. There's no way that the Cowboys cover 14 points here. I'm going to sleep easy knowing that I'm going to take the Commanders to cover that. Okay? No goddamn way the Cowboys are covering that. Here's an interesting matchup. If you watch the Green Bay, Minnesota Sunday nighter, Minnesota messed up by they should have had the quarterback situation. There was the wrong play to put Hall in there, rookie quarterback in that kind of game, and they had to take him out by the end of the first half. That was a bad, poor coaching decision. You know what I mean? That was horrible. They lost that game in the first half. Green Bay looked pretty good. Injuries didn't come back to haunt them. But Jordan Love looked good. Looked great. Big catches from receivers. Watch out, Aaron Jones. This guy looks healthy. He's a difference maker. He is a difference maker. Running back Aaron Jones. And, man, I had him in my fantasy this year, and due to that hamstring injury, I think he cost me a playoff spot. His impact as a running back and putting up points, both catching and receiving and running, was a huge loss for me. So I'm sure he's concerned about that, as I am. But the Bears come to town, and the Packers are 3-point favorites. This scares me if I'm the Packers. They win. They're into the playoffs. Let me just confirm that. But this Bears team coming into Green Bay with nothing to lose scares me. So I think the 3 points is bang on. I think the Bears have a shot to win this game. I want to see the Packers win this game. But it's going to come down to the wire, and I would not be surprised if the Bears win. I'm going to say Bears in this one. Give me the 3 points. Especially if somehow this goes up to 3.5. I don't think it will. I actually think it might go to 2.5. So take the Bears. I hate saying it. I want to see the Packers in the playoffs. Nothing better than the Packers. I want to see what Jordan Love can do in a playoff game. But scary game. That's an undervalued game this week. I think it's going to be one to watch for sure. Big matchup Sunday nighter to close out the 2023 regular season. Buffalo Bills, a 3-point favorite heading into Miami. The Miami Dolphins, who had an opportunity to put things to bed in Baltimore last week, got shellanked, got crushed by the Ravens. Basically bitch slapped. That, you're not ready for this. And I get the feeling that the Dolphins seem to be kind of withering, injuries and banged up, and they just lost, Chubb, ACL tear on the defensive side of the ball, which is a big loss. Waddle, how is he injured? Not injured. Mostert injured? Not injured. Like, what condition is he in? How healthy is Tyreek Hill? He was an impact player last week, but dropped an easy touchdown, which is very unlike him. I just think that the marathon 17-game season is catching up to the Dolphins. This game's still interesting, though, because the Bills, I don't know what you're going to get with them. I mean, I would not be shocked if they make a long playoff run, but that's if they get to the playoffs. I don't know what you're getting on a week-to-week basis. So in this matchup, I'm going to say this is going over. This is going to be a track meet. Over 50 points. Okay, I'm going to take the over 50 points. The Bills win. They win the AFC division. And if they lose, they might be out of the playoffs. Because they have to. If they lose, then they gotta hope that Pittsburgh loses. So if Pittsburgh loses on Saturday, then the Bills are in. But if Pittsburgh wins, it's all or nothing. Or if Jacksonville loses, so I mean they got scenarios, but really, they have the destiny in their control as they head into Miami on that Sunday nighter. I wouldn't be leaving it to Tennessee to knock off Jacksonville and Baltimore with no Lamar Jackson necessarily to win those games outright. So Bills are in tough, but there's a shot. Dolphins are AFC division champions if they win or tie. What else? Pretty much it. So they're in the playoffs. They've already clinched the playoff spot, but it's about the division for them. Wild season. Nobody could predict it. That when we go into 2024, we're on this podcast predicting where things are going to land, by season's end. And you're buying magazines and, we're buying subscriptions to people doing prognostications of who is going to be the AFC South champion. Or there is no way anybody can predict the series of events, injuries on the quarterback side that can predict the outcome of a team season. Jake Browning, solid performance, coming in for Joe Burrow, but he's not Joe Burrow, and you could tell that in the second half against Kansas City. Dobbs had a great, run with the Cardinals, moved over to the Vikings, and then went flat. You know what I mean? Like it's the Steelers quarterback situation. Don't even know really what they got now with Mason Rudolph. It's all over the place. Joe Flacco. Guys, it's going to end. He's played well, but he's going to have that game, whether it be the first week or the second week of the playoffs, where he doesn't throw 3 touchdowns. He throws 1 touchdown but throws 3 or 4 picks. It's coming. You can see that foundation kind of withering, and he's flying by the seat of his pants. So nobody's going to be able to predict over a long period of time what these things look like because of the quarterback situation and the number of injuries that we see and have seen this year. Unbelievable, season-changing injuries. That is to say the least. Well, the Overrated Experience is done for the first episode in 2024. The pleasure's all been yours, of course. I hope you had a great and will have an even better new year from your friends here at the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. We appreciate your support in 2023, and we hope you continue in 2024. And bring your friends. We want to grow this thing. I'm learning, you're learning, and we're trying to be better gamblers and better, think sports in a different manner. So please spread the word. And I'll leave it with that. I'll talk to you later in the week. The Overrated Experience is over and out.